Well, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I hope you are doing great. It is the start of a new week, and we are Monday, October 9th, 2023. And I hope you all had a great weekend. I know there are a few things going on in the world. So for some of you, it's probably not the greatest weekend, but nevertheless, I want to focus on the more positive sides of life. And that is, or that can be, for some of you, being together in business as a couple. People always ask me, how do you do it? How can you be in business with Andrea, your partner in life and in business, and not get sick of each other and not get into fights all the time? How do you do it? And therefore, I thought, well, let me explore a little bit what most couples run into, what type of problems, and then I'll just tell you why it works for me and how it works for me. And us, I should say. And let me begin by telling you that I have been in business, in this business that I'm doing now, two different relationships. The main difference, in my personal opinion, between the two partners and why it works with Andrea and it didn't work with the previous partner was what are personal goals in life for the two partners. And not to say that any goal was better than the other, but there is a better alignment of goals between Andrea and myself and the previous partner. If, for instance, as business people, you strive after continuous improvement, always improving processes, always driving the business forward, then that is a much better match than, for instance, if one person wants to always work on the business and the other person who doesn't understand the intricacies of business prefers to, work there 9 to 5 and have some peace over the weekend. Who doesn't understand that? I myself, as a former 9 to 5ler, I understand that. 9 to 5ler, that's a funny word. But the reason it works for Andrea and I is that we both know we want to build this unstoppable business. We want to build this legacy, this value creating, money making machine, and solve a few problems for people and have a lot of fun along the way. We grow in terms of knowledge, we grow wealth, and we also grow personality. And I think that is one of the key factors, is that we both have a passion for that. It's really interesting. Let's see. So when it comes to role distribution within the business, I do believe that if you work together all day long, it needs to be very clear, what is your role? What is my role? And that should be determined by where the strength, of course, in knowledge and skill set lies of the person. In other words, don't just give someone a role because they are your partner. Give them the role that is best for them, even if that means within a company with multiple employees, which is the case for us, even if that means that in certain aspects, maybe role based, there's employees who are placed higher in the ranks in a specific segment than your partner. And I think that is very important that both partners know and understand that. For instance, when it comes to IT or web development or networking, we have people in our company who are in that regard positioned higher in decision making and in expertise than Andrea or myself for that matter. I think that is very important, right? To understand that just because you are in business as partners, the rules of how a company needs to be operated cannot be altered. But of course, it's very normal that you want your significant other to be leading the company with you. And I don't know how that works for other couples in business, but for us, it turns out to work very well where I'm the CEO and Andrea is the chief operating officer. But one has to say that she's not always been in that place. She had to slowly acquire the skills and experience to get to that point. So if you go back in time and look at how we evolved, you can see that at first she was an admin help. Then she turned into a medical content specialist. And then at some point, she turned into the chief operating officer. And that evolution was natural and important. And this is the only way how to make this truly work. Now, I got curious and I asked the internet, tell me a little bit about joint businesses. What's going on? And of course, there is this concept of it being a romantic allure, and there's this glorification, there's this utopic vision of when you are in business together, you do life together, you always like next to each other in love, and you hold each other's hand and do everything together, and that's super beautiful. And that's not been the case at all for us. I am here in this office pretty much all day long. Sometimes I travel to in-person meetings, and Andrea is in her office, and most of the time there is an employee with her in the office, and she works with a team all day long. Even though we work in the same business and even though we are even in close proximity, I would say that we don't really check in on each other that much. Maybe throughout the workday, let's assume that's 8 hours, we spend a combined 60 minutes during breaks together. And I will say that is one of the perks, because others, there's the commute, there's like them being literally in 2 different companies and 2 different physical locations. So they don't have that. We have at least those 60 minutes and we do appreciate those. But it's definitely not the case that we sit next to each other, holding hands, operating the business. So that poses the other aspect that definitely is worth talking about is challenges of doing this together, challenges we run into. And they mostly are based, as probably in all aspects of relationships, based on opposing opinions on certain aspects. I think a certain way about how we should grow than maybe Andrea. I have a certain leadership style. I think the employees should be measured by a certain factor than Andrea. And it's actually a positive aspect of being in business together because you get trained to make decisions based on facts. Because, as you know, in order to have a thriving business, you need to base your decisions on numbers. You need to look at indicators, key performance indicators that tell you, hey, this is how this is what your next move should be. So I find it very helpful. I find it a way where we can practice having fact-based conversations together. And I really like that. That's a positive aspect of being in business together. I'm not sure I found this article, and this is by no means a academic study, but they found this article that hints at higher success rates for couple-owned businesses. I can see that, because you just, as you know, when you have a business, especially at the beginning, you have to be the driving force in that business non-stop. There's not gonna be any personal life balance, work-life balance. That just doesn't exist. You are your business 24/7. And of course, if only one partner has that type of lifestyle and mindset, that inevitably leads to clashes. And there's going to be moments where you just need to make a concession and step back and say, well, okay, I know this needs to be taken care of now, but I just cannot, because I've already been away for 10 hours today, and I cannot possibly put in more without jeopardizing our relationship. Now, this is different when you are a couple in business, because both partners understand that your life is your business, at least for the first few years. And both partners want that. Your business literally is like a child that needs your attention around the clock. And the fact that that is possible without it having repercussions on your emotional world is really a plus. And I love that about being in business together. Also, it's really interesting because, as you know, in business, you have milestones, you have certain things that you want to achieve together in business. And keyword together, you can strategize, and Andrea and I do that often over the weekends. You can strategize about what should be the next step in this business. What do we want to achieve by the end of the year? And then you can strategize and come up with a plan and say, okay, you'll be in charge of this, I'll be in charge of that. And that is very bonding, right? Because you have to go through all of these obstacles together, and it grows the appreciation and the love for each other. This being in business with Andrea has made me appreciate her so much more, because not only do I see the facets of her personality as a human being, but I see her splendor in how she leads the team and how she grows and all of that. So it's actually very, very much bonding you together. At least that is how it's the case in our relationship. Let me see. I'm taking a look here at what the internet thinks. Apparently in the United States, there's 1.4 million jointly owned firms. And I think that's a lot. That's really a lot. And I find that beautiful. And then, of course, there's this bullet point that I have here: necessity of balancing personal and professional lives. Again, I don't think that work-life balance exists. I don't believe in that. And in a way, being in business together as a couple, it becomes unnecessary, because your life, which for a lot of you, I would argue your partner is a big part of your life equals your business, because you share the same hopes, the same goals, and the same obstacles. And that's a beautiful part. The only thing that I will say is that there's times throughout the day where maybe you need to draw a line and say, okay, during this activity, during this hour, let's not talk about business. And that is something we agree on, actually. For instance, when we go on our morning walk, very often the first half hour of the walk is dedicated to mindful walking. And I have the tendency to, or I had to, I've gotten much better. I had the tendency to sometimes think already about the day and start asking about business things. And then Andrea would say, hey, let's just do the first half hour mindful walking, and then put the conversation in the second part of the hour. And I said, okay, that's totally okay. And that's just making compromises. But those things are important. I mean, that you, of course, even in business together, each person still has their own preferences of how things are done. Each person has different energy levels on different days. And it's about finding concessions and intersections and doing this thing together. But that is also arguably true between any team members, even non-romantic partners who are in a business venture together. I can tell you that being in a business venture together gets you very, very close to that person. You get to know them in all kinds of situations, good ones, bad ones, situations where you're under pressure, situations where you have time, situations where you need to react in a moment, situations where you can strategize. So, and that, by the way, is also the beauty of entrepreneurship. In my humble opinion, entrepreneurship is all about being able to solve problems, create value, and find satisfaction, leaving a legacy, whatever that is for you. And it's a beautiful thing. I love being in business, and I love being a business man and owner. I could not perceive a life where that was not the case anymore. This is, once you start this journey, there's no going back. All right, I think that's what I had for today. Let me just talk briefly about the upcoming challenge on LinkedIn. It's blended in here. yougrow.club. You can go there. We have a challenge coming up starting on October 24th, I believe. Let me also give you a QR code that you can scan. So here in the top left corner, you can scan this QR code. It will lead you to a page where you can enter your name, and then in the week of October 24th, Shanae Moray, which is not my romantic partner, but definitely a business partner too, Shanae Moray and I we will tell you about what you should do during that week, what you should talk about on LinkedIn to grow your LinkedIn. Get more views, get more followers, and get more engagement on your posts. So that is something of interest, make sure you take me up on that offer. And I would say that's it. I don't see any more questions in the chat or anything, which means to me that you are ready to be released to continue your days. This was the daily intention, daily check-in with Shankar Poncelet at 7 a.m. Central Time every morning. And what we are doing with the daily intention is we're setting intention to perform at our best level in business, in our mindsets, and also with our bodies. We want to be in shape mentally, physically, and we want to work on our businesses. That is what the daily intention is for. That is why I do this personally in the morning, so that everything that follows in the day is done on a good, healthy foundation of having the right mindset. As always, sending you love, prosperity, and happiness from San Antonio, Texas. This is Shankar Poncelet signing off for now. Bye-bye.